Here is your full, cinematic, emotional 3,000-word YouTube article with no headings, no sections, and pure storytelling, exactly the way you prefer for your channel. The rain was unkind that evening, sharp, cold, falling in heavy sheets that made the entire street look like it was drowning beneath the storm. Cars rushed past, sending waves of dirty water splashing onto the footpath, and people hurried under umbrellas, none willing to slow down for anyone. Lahore had seen storms, but not like this. This one felt personal, like the sky was grieving something unseen. Maryam tightened the thin shawl around her shoulders as she hurried across the road, balancing a cheap plastic bag full of groceries in one hand and pulling her 7-year-old daughter Aisha with the other. They were late, again. Work at the cafe had taken longer than expected, and the last bus home had already gone. Aisha's shoes were soaked, her hair clung to her forehead, and her little fingers trembled from the cold. Maryam whispered, "Just a few more minutes, Betty. We'll get home soon." But then she froze. In the middle of the footpath, leaning heavily on a stick, was an old man, thin, drenched, trembling, and struggling to take even one more step. Cars passed him, splashing water onto his worn coat. People rushed by, glancing at him for a moment, then turning away as if he were invisible. He tried to walk, but his body seemed too weak for the storm. His legs shook violently, and his stick slipped on the wet pavement. He nearly fell. Without thinking, Maryam dropped her grocery bag, water splashing her ankles, and rushed toward him. She grabbed his arm before he hit the ground. "Uncle, are you okay?" she asked, her voice shaking. The old man tried to speak, but his teeth chattered too hard. Rain poured down his face like tears. His voice was barely a whisper. I just need to get home." Aisha, though shivering, stepped closer and tugged her mother's sleeve. "Ami, he looks very sick." Maryam looked around. No rickshaw stopped, no bus passed. The old man clearly couldn't walk alone. And she knew, if she didn't help him, no one else would. A moment later, she took a deep breath and said the words that would change her life forever. "Get in, uncle, let me take you home." The old man blinked at her, confused, as she gently guided him toward the little covered rickshaw stand nearby. But there were no rickshaws left. The storm had chased them away. For a moment, despair washed over the old man's face. "It's okay," Maryam said softly. "We'll walk slowly. Hold my arm." And so they did, step by step, through the storm. She shielded him with her shawl, even though it meant her own clothes absorbed the cold rain. Aisha walked beside them, holding the old man's hand with her tiny fingers, giving him warmth she didn't even know she had. It took nearly 20 minutes to reach his home, a small, decaying house at the end of the street. Its gate was half open, and the light inside the foyer was dim. Maryam helped him onto the chair near the entrance. "Uncle, should I call anyone? Do you live with someone?" He shook his head slowly. "My son, he lives far away. Busy man, important man." His words were laced with loneliness. Maryam found a towel and gently wiped his face. She brought him warm water. She made sure he was settled and breathing normally before standing up with a soft smile. "You'll be okay now. Please keep your door locked, uncle. And rest." He reached out, touched her hand with trembling fingers, and whispered, You are a blessing." Maryam felt her throat tighten. "No, uncle, I'm just a mother trying to get home." She and Aisha turned to leave. What Maryam didn't know, what she couldn't possibly imagine, was that inside the dark corner of the house, a security camera had captured everything. Someone was watching, someone who would remember her face. The next morning came quietly. The storm had cleared, leaving a cold, washed-out world behind. Maryam woke early, made roti for Aisha, tied her daughter's hair, and prepared to go to work. Money was tight, rent was due in 2 weeks. But she pushed away her worries the way she always did, one day at a time. She walked Aisha to school and then headed to the cafe. It was a normal day, until it wasn't. Around noon, a sleek black SUV stopped in front of the cafe. People turned to stare. The air shifted. The driver stepped out first, dressed in a formal black suit. Then the door opened, and a tall man in his early 30s emerged, sharp jawline, expensive coat, intense eyes that seemed to search the crowd for something. He walked straight into the cafe. "Maryam?" he asked, his voice firm yet strangely gentle. She froze. She had never seen him before. "Yes, I'm Maryam." He exhaled deeply, as if he'd found something precious he'd been looking for. "My name is Zaidan. I need to speak with you. It's important. Very important." Customers turned to watch. Maryam felt her heartbeat pick up. "Is everything okay?" He nodded slowly. "It's about my father." Her breath caught in her throat. Is he okay? Did something happen after I left?" Zaidan's eyes softened with gratitude. "You helped him last night. You walked with him in the storm. You took him home. You saved him." His voice wavered for a moment. If you hadn't been there, he might not have survived the night. Maryam covered her mouth with her hand, stunned. He continued, my father is old, he doesn't admit when he's sick. And I'm not always here. But I saw what you did. I saw it on the security camera. He paused. You didn't even hesitate. Maryam felt embarrassed. Anyone would have helped. Zaydan shook his head. No, no one else did. The cafe grew silent around them. Please, he said, come with me. My father wants to see you. Maryam looked at her apron, then at her manager. She couldn't just walk out during her shift. She had bills to pay. Her manager, however, nodded immediately. Go. This seems important. Zaydan held open the SUV door for her like she was someone valuable, someone he respected deeply. She had never experienced such courtesy. Aisha was at school, so Maryam texted her neighbor to pick her up. Then she climbed into the SUV. The drive was quiet, but Zaydan kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror, as if still trying to wrap his mind around her kindness. When they reached the house, Maryam stepped inside, and nearly gasped. In the morning light, the house looked completely different. Clean, bright, well-furnished, not wealthy, but clearly comfortable. The old man sat on the sofa, wrapped in a warm shawl, a cup of tea in his hand. When he saw her, his eyes filled with tears. My daughter, he whispered. She rushed to him. How are you feeling, uncle? Better because of you, he said, gripping her hand tightly. Zaydan watched them with a strange emotion, something like awe. My father told me everything about last night, he said softly. But I want to hear it from you. Maryam smiled shyly. There's nothing much to tell. He needed help, so I helped. And we walked home. You risked your own health, Zaydan said quietly. You protected him in the rain. You gave him warmth. You stayed with him until he was safe. Maryam shook her head. It was nothing. But for the father and son, it wasn't nothing. It was everything. The old man looked up at Zaydan. This girl has a pure heart. There are very few left like her. Zaydan swallowed hard, then turned back to Maryam. I want to do something for you, he said. Something meaningful, not charity, gratitude. Maryam raised her hands instantly. No, please, I didn't help him for a reward. He smiled gently. And that's exactly why you deserve one. She opened her mouth to refuse again, but then her eyes fell on Aisha's worn school shoes, on her own cracked hands, on the reality she lived every day. She closed her mouth. The old man spoke. Let us do this for you. For your daughter. For your life. Zaydan continued. I want to offer you a job. Not cafe work. A position at my company, administrative assistant. Good salary. Benefits. A safe life for you and your daughter. Maryam stared at him, stunned. But I don't have much education. You have something better, he said. Integrity. A clean heart. And we can train you. My company trains hundreds every year. You'll learn quickly. Her eyes filled with tears. She turned to the old man. Uncle, I don't know what to say. Say yes, he whispered. Her lips trembled, and after a long moment, she nodded. That day became the turning point of her life. Over the next weeks, Maryam began working at the company. She learned everything, emails, reports, office systems, and Zaydan personally checked on her progress. Everyone admired her dedication, her kindness, her honesty. Aisha went to a better school. Maryam bought new clothes for the first time in years. Life was different, brighter. But something else happened too. Without meaning to, Zaydan began noticing the small details about her. The way she tied Aisha's shoelaces with such tenderness. The way she never complained, never expected anything. The quiet strength in her voice. The way she smiled when she talked about her dreams. He found himself thinking about her more often than he should. One evening, his father said, "You look happier these days." Zaydan smiled shyly. Because of her, the old man chuckled softly. You know, sometimes Allah sends people into our lives quietly, like a rainstorm that washes everything clean. Zaydan looked away, his heart full. In Maryam, she felt something too. A warmth she couldn't explain, a safety she had never felt before. But she kept it buried. Men like him didn't choose women like her. One evening, after work, she was walking toward the bus stop when the sky suddenly darkened again, a warning of another storm. She closed her eyes, remembering the night she helped the old man. And when she opened them, Zaydan was standing beside her holding an umbrella. Let me take you home, he said softly. She hesitated. I don't want to trouble you. He shook his head. You already brought light into our home. This is nothing. She climbed into the car. The ride was quiet, gentle. When they reached her building, she stepped out, thanking him quietly. Before she could walk away, he called her name. Maryam. She turned. I want you to know something, he said, voice trembling slightly. You didn't just save my father that night. You changed our lives. And you, he paused, searching her face. You've become someone very important to us. Her heart pounded. And you've become important to us too, she whispered without meaning to. For a moment, their eyes held, the entire world melting into silence. But life wasn't done with its twists. A few weeks later, the old man's health suddenly worsened. He was rushed to the hospital. Maryam stayed by his side, holding his hand, refusing to leave. Zaydan watched her, love growing in his heart like a sunrise. The old man opened his eyes weakly and said, "Promise me something." Both leaned closer. "Take care of each other." And just like that, he closed his eyes peacefully, leaving behind a blessing instead of sorrow. The funeral was quiet, dignified. Maryam stood beside Zaydan the whole time. When it ended, he reached for her hand, not out of grief, but out of certainty. "Maryam," he whispered, "my father saw something long before I did. A future, a family, a home." She looked up, tears shining. "I don't know what life has been for you," he continued, voice breaking, "but if you let me, I want to give you and Aisha a new one. Not because I pity you, not because I owe you, but because," he stepped closer, "because I've fallen in love with you." Her breath caught. No one had ever spoken those words to her with such honesty, such depth. "And I," she whispered, "never thought someone like you could love someone like me." Zaydan smiled through the tears. "Someone like you is exactly what someone like me needs." The wind blew softly. The world felt warm again, even without the sun. Months later, Maryam and Zaydan stood together at the old man's house, the place where everything began. Aisha ran into the garden, laughing freely, her life completely transformed. Zaydan wrapped an arm around Maryam's shoulders. "He would have loved to see this." She smiled. "He sees. He's the reason we're here." Rain clouds gathered again above them. But this time, Maryam wasn't scared of storms. Because some storms don't come to destroy your life. Some come to clear your path. And hers had led her straight to a home she never imagined, a love she never expected, and a life she truly deserved. Ending message: emotional and inspiring, English version. Sometimes life leads us to people we never imagined crossing paths with. A small act of kindness, simply holding someone's hand for a moment, can change your entire destiny. That night, Maryam only helped an elderly man walk home, but in return, God wrote love, respect, and a new home into her life. This story teaches us that no act of goodness is ever small. One step, one smile, one moment of help, it can become a lifeline for someone who desperately needs it. And even when your own life feels dark, becoming a light for someone else, that is the true victory of life. Whatever hardship you're facing, remember this: God never lets a single good deed go to waste. Today, you might be someone's support. Tomorrow, someone will take you to places you never had the strength to reach alone. So never stop being kind. Because the reward for a good heart always comes directly from God. Heart.